The Bennet family resides at Longbourn, a modest but comfortable estate in the rural English countryside of Hertfordshire. During the Regency era early 19th century, this setting is crucial, as the novel's central conflict revolves around the precarious social and financial position of the Bennet family, particularly the 5 unmarried daughters, Jane, Elizabeth, Mary, Kitty, and Lydia. Their father, Mr. Bennet, is a gentleman whose estate is entailed away from his female heirs, meaning it must pass to a distant male cousin, Mr. Collins, upon his death. This entailment creates an atmosphere of underlying anxiety and urgency, driving Mrs. Bennet's singular, often comical, obsession with securing wealthy husbands for her daughters to ensure their future security and social standing. Hertfordshire represents a microcosm of provincial society, where social interactions are limited, gossip is rampant, and the arrival of new, wealthy neighbors like Mr. Bingley at Netherfield Park becomes the event of the season. The rural setting emphasizes the insularity of the Bennets' world, where reputation is paramount and opportunities for advancement are scarce, making the arrival of eligible bachelors a matter of intense speculation and strategic maneuvering. The tranquility of the countryside contrasts sharply with the turbulent emotions and social ambitions churning within the Bennet household, establishing the foundational pressures that drive the plot. The arrival of the wealthy, amiable young gentleman Mr. Charles Bingley at the nearby Netherfield Park acts as the novel's inciting incident, instantly disrupting the predictable rhythm of life in Hertfordshire and igniting Mrs. Bennet's fervent hopes. News of Bingley's rental of the estate, coupled with his reported income of £4,000 or £5,000 a year, spreads like wildfire through the local community, establishing him as the most eligible bachelor in the neighborhood. Mrs. Bennet immediately identifies him as a potential husband for one of her daughters, particularly the beautiful and gentle Jane, and schemes to secure an introduction. Her determination leads her to pressure Mr. Bennet into making the first social call, a necessary step in the rigid etiquette of the time. Bingley's presence introduces the central external conflict, the race to secure a match that will secure the Bennet daughters' futures. His arrival also brings his even wealthier friend, Mr. Darcy, and his sisters, creating a new social circle that the Bennets, particularly the younger girls, are eager to penetrate. This event sets the entire plot in motion, creating the initial stir of excitement, hope, and social maneuvering that will define the characters' interactions for the first half of the novel, directly leading to the pivotal assembly ball where first impressions are formed. The Meryton assembly ball is the crucible, where the central themes of pride and prejudice are immediately forged through the starkly contrasting first impressions of the main characters. Mr. Bingley, true to his amiable nature, is immediately captivated by the beauty and sweetness of Jane Bennet, dancing with her twice and engaging her in easy conversation, signaling the beginning of their mutual attraction. In stark contrast, his friend Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy, whose immense wealth and aristocratic connections make him the most prestigious figure present, cuts a proud and aloof figure. He dances only with Bingley's sisters and refuses to be introduced to any other lady, declaring Elizabeth Bennet, when prompted by Bingley, to be tolerable, but not handsome enough to tempt me. This insult, overheard by Elizabeth, instantly establishes her deep-seated prejudice against Darcy, branding him as arrogant and disagreeable. Darcy's behavior stems from a combination of genuine social awkwardness in unfamiliar company, a sense of superiority inherent in his class, and perhaps an unconscious defensiveness. Elizabeth, however, interprets his actions solely through the lens of wounded pride and class resentment. This ball scene masterfully sets up the central romantic conflict. Elizabeth's lively intelligence and wit are pitted against Darcy's perceived haughtiness, while Bingley's open admiration for Jane provides a counterpoint of immediate, uncomplicated attraction. The seeds of misunderstanding and mutual dislike are sown, destined to grow and complicate their relationships profoundly. The arrival of the militia in Meryton introduces George Wickham, a handsome, charming, and seemingly affable officer, whose presence significantly deepens Elizabeth Bennet's prejudice against Mr. Darcy. Wickham possesses an easy sociability and an engaging manner that quickly endears him to the local community, particularly the younger Bennet girls. He strategically seeks out Elizabeth, recognizing her intelligence and influence within her family. During a confidential conversation, Wickham artfully spins a tale of past injustice at Darcy's hands, claiming they grew up together as the son of Darcy's beloved steward. He alleges that Darcy, consumed by jealousy over his father's fondness for Wickham, cruelly denied him a valuable clerical living promised by the late Mr. Darcy, leaving him destitute despite his excellent qualifications. This fabricated narrative plays perfectly into Elizabeth's existing negative perception of Darcy, confirming her belief in his pride, selfishness, and capacity for cruelty. Wickham presents himself as the wronged, humble victim, contrasting sharply with Darcy's perceived arrogance. Elizabeth, swayed by his charm and apparent sincerity, readily accepts his story without question, allowing it to solidify her dislike for Darcy and blind her to any potential redeeming qualities he might possess. Wickham's deception is a masterstroke of manipulation, exploiting Elizabeth's own pride in her judgment and her prejudice against Darcy to poison her perspective further, setting the stage for future conflict and misunderstanding. Mr. Bingley's abrupt departure from Netherfield for London, occurring shortly after his growing attachment to Jane Bennet, seems undeniable, sends shockwaves through the Bennet family and deepens the central mystery and emotional turmoil. His departure is precipitated by a planned trip to London for business, but its suddenness and the complete cessation of his correspondence with Jane are deeply suspicious and painful. Jane, who had genuinely believed Bingley's affection was reciprocated and serious, is heartbroken and bewildered by his silence. Elizabeth, observing her sister's genuine distress and Bingley's apparent fickleness, becomes fiercely protective and indignant. She quickly concludes, fueled by her distrust of Darcy and the influence of Bingley's sisters, who clearly disapprove of the Bennets, that Darcy must have actively intervened to separate the couple. She believes Darcy, motivated by pride and a desire to protect his friend from an unsuitable connection with a family lacking connections and refinement, has persuaded Bingley that Jane's feelings were not as deep as his own. This perceived interference becomes another major grievance Elizabeth holds against Darcy, reinforcing her image of him as a selfish, controlling man who disregards the happiness of others. Bingley's departure creates a significant narrative turning point, leaving Jane heartbroken, Elizabeth resentful, and the question of Bingley's true feelings and motivations hanging ominously over the plot, setting the stage for future revelations and confrontations. Darcy's unexpected and disastrously executed marriage proposal to Elizabeth at Rosings Park is the explosive climax of the novel's first half, a collision of Pride and Prejudice that lays bare their deepest flaws and misunderstandings. Darcy, having struggled against his growing attraction to Elizabeth due to her family's lack of standing and his own sense of social superiority, finally succumbs, declaring his love in a manner that is anything but romantic. He emphasizes the violence of his affection against his will, his struggles against her inferior connections, and the degradation it represents for him to marry her. This arrogant, condescending speech, focusing entirely on his own sacrifices and her family's deficiencies, utterly destroys any chance of success. Elizabeth, already harboring deep resentment over his perceived role in separating Jane and Bingley and believing Wickham's lies, is enraged. She unleashes a furious rejection, citing his arrogance, his ungentlemanly interference in Bingley's affairs, and his alleged cruel mistreatment of Wickham. In the aftermath of Elizabeth's blistering rejection, Darcy delivers a letter that serves as a pivotal narrative device, forcing Elizabeth to confront uncomfortable truths and fundamentally altering her perspective. The letter meticulously addresses the two main accusations she leveled against him regarding Jane and Bingley. Darcy explains his observations. He genuinely believed Jane's serene demeanor indicated only a mild, easily surmountable attachment, while Bingley's ardent love made him vulnerable. Seeing the impropriety of the Bennet family, Mrs. Bennet's vulgarity, the younger girl's wildness, and convinced Jane was indifferent, Darcy felt justified in separating them to protect his friend from an imprudent match. Crucially, he admits his error in misjudging Jane's feelings. Regarding Wickham, Darcy reveals the shocking truth. Wickham is a deceitful, profligate gambler who squandered the money Darcy gave him in lieu of the living, and then attempted to elope with Darcy's then 15-year-old sister, Georgiana, solely to gain her fortune of £30,000. Darcy provides irrefutable evidence of Wickham's character. Reading this letter is a profound, painful reckoning for Elizabeth. She is forced to acknowledge the validity of Darcy's observations about her family and the depth of Wickham's villainy. Her prejudice against Darcy crumbles as she recognizes her own blindness and hasty judgment. The letter marks the beginning of Elizabeth's self-examination, and the dawning of a more nuanced understanding of Darcy, transforming her animosity into a complex mixture of shame, regret, and burgeoning respect. Lydia Bennet's impulsive elopement with the unscrupulous George Wickham while visiting Brighton throws the Bennet family into a state of utter panic and threatens to bring about their complete social ruin. Lydia, the youngest, most flighty, and morally immature Bennet sister, has been infatuated with the officers since their arrival in Meryton. Given excessive freedom in Brighton, under the lax supervision of her friend, Mrs. Forster, the wife of the militia colonel, she succumbs to Wickham's calculated seduction. Their elopement is not a romantic flight, but a disastrous act of recklessness. As an unmarried couple living together, they commit a grave social transgression. In Regency England, such behavior meant instant and irreparable disgrace for the entire family. The scandal would render all 5 Bennet daughters unmarriageable, destroying their already precarious prospects and shattering the family's reputation permanently. News of the elopement sends shockwaves through Hertfordshire and reaches Elizabeth and the Gardiners, her sensible aunt and uncle. In Derbyshire, Mr. Bennet, helpless and furious in London, fails to find the couple. The family faces utter humiliation and social exile. This crisis serves as the ultimate test of character and the catalyst for Darcy's redemption. It starkly highlights the consequences of the Bennet parents' failures in raising their younger daughters and forces Elizabeth to confront the full weight of her family's deficiencies, which Darcy had so painfully pointed out in his proposal. Unbeknownst to the Bennet family and even to Elizabeth, Mr. Darcy takes decisive, selfless action to resolve the Lydia Wickham scandal, demonstrating his profound transformation and love for Elizabeth. Upon learning of the elopement from Elizabeth's distraught letter, written during her tour of Derbyshire with the Gardiners, Darcy feels personally responsible, recognizing that his failure to expose Wickham's true character earlier contributed to the situation. Driven by his love for Elizabeth and a desire to alleviate her suffering, he tracks the couple down in London. He finds them living together, unmarried, in a state of near destitution. Wickham having squandered any money he had, Darcy confronts Wickham, leveraging his knowledge of Wickham's debts, gambling habits, and the attempted elopement with Georgiana. He offers Wickham a substantial sum of money, paying off his significant debts and providing an additional lump sum on the condition that he marries Lydia immediately. Darcy also uses his influence to secure Wickham a commission in a northern regiment, ensuring the couple is removed from Hertfordshire and the immediate vicinity of the Bennets. He attends the wedding himself, ensuring it takes place. Crucially, Darcy performs these acts anonymously, persuading Mrs. Gardiner, who knows some of the truth, to let the Bennets believe it was the Gardiners who found and financially persuaded Wickham. This secret intervention is Darcy's ultimate act of humility and devotion. He sacrifices his pride, expends his wealth, and associates himself with people he despises, solely to save the woman he loves and her family from utter ruin. Embodying the true gentleman he has become, the novel concludes with a deeply satisfying resolution that sees the central couples united, misunderstandings resolved, and personal growth rewarded, embodying Austen's themes of self-knowledge and the triumph of genuine merit over superficial prejudice. Mr. Bingley, encouraged by Darcy, who now fully supports the match and confesses his earlier error in judgment about Jane's feelings, returns to Netherfield. He soon proposes to Jane Bennet, whose quiet joy is complete. Their union represents the healing of past hurts and the triumph of steady, genuine affection. Meanwhile, Elizabeth and Darcy's relationship undergoes its final transformation. During a walk, Lady Catherine de Bourgh, Darcy's aunt, confronts Elizabeth, demanding she promise never to accept Darcy's proposal. Elizabeth, refusing to be intimidated, stands up for herself, declaring she will make her own choices regarding marriage. Unbeknownst to her, Darcy learns of this encounter, realizing Elizabeth's feelings have changed, and that she would likely accept him now. He proposes again. This time, his proposal is humble, sincere, and filled with respect, acknowledging her family's faults, but valuing her character above all else. Elizabeth, having overcome her prejudice and recognizing Darcy's true worth, his integrity, generosity as she later learns of his role in saving Lydia, and deep love for her, joyfully accepts. The double marriages of Jane to Bingley and Elizabeth to Darcy secure the Bennet sisters' futures, restore the family's social standing, and affirm the novel's core message that lasting happiness in marriage requires overcoming pride and prejudice through self-awareness, understanding, and mutual respect.